Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman and facilitator for Trusts Unlimited, and I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call. Today is May 22nd, 2024. Things are happening, not as quickly as we would like, but they are happening. If the things we discuss on these calls are of interest, I hope you will share them with other like-minded individuals, and they can participate in these calls as well. This will be a little shorter call today for the simple reason that I'm absolutely inundated with contacts, texts, emails, requests for trusts, requests for amendments to their trusts, general questions, and the like. So I'm going to move quickly through this call, provide the information I think that will be of interest to you, and then move on to responding to all of these various individuals. First, by way of disclaimer, Trusts Unlimited is not the purveyor of the dinar or these other currencies. We're not advocating either the sale or purchase of these currencies, but as rather substantial currency holders ourselves. We're sharing with you the information we believe to be most relevant. Of course, the most important issue is the window for the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar. In my opinion, it could happen at any time, but for those of us that have been involved in this for a number of years, we know that they always manage to find some way to kick the can down the road and prolong this thing, but they're really running out of obstacles, frankly. In my view, the only people that are trying to postpone this thing or stop it altogether just have an entirely different agenda than the citizens of Iraq and certainly the Sudani government, but we'll be getting into that. For those of you that have been kind enough to listen, certainly over the last few months, I've made it clear that, in my opinion, Iraq has been operating with an undisclosed exchange rate, or at the very least, a parameter of where the rate would eventually fall for months. This, in my opinion, is for a number of reasons. First, a number of central banks have been purchasing the dinar to hold as a reserve currency, which makes absolutely no sense if they believe that the dinar will remain for the foreseeable future a sanctioned program rate currency. Second, we know that the CBI of Iraq has been purchasing substantial amounts of gold, which again makes no sense if they're going to remain as a sanctioned program rate. We also know that they've passed last year a 3-year budget, despite the fact that Iraq probably has more U.S. reserve currency than it's had in its recent past. The USD in their possession doesn't come close to funding their budget. Therefore, their only other option would be the reinstitution or evaluation of their own currency, or becoming a failed nation state. Iraq has also entered into a number of international contracts to rebuild their infrastructure, water systems, electric grid, roads, and even cities. So I can't imagine any nation state or any large international contractor would enter into a contract with Iraq without knowing that they're going to be paid for services rendered. And again, the USD that they have is nowhere near sufficient to even cover their budget, let alone these international contracts. Therefore, everyone's operating, in my opinion, with the assumption not only that the dinar will revalue, but they have at the very least a parameter of, where the dinar is going to fall. And then the last thing I'll mention is a lot of nations have also entered into currency swaps with Iraq. So why, for example, would a nation like Kuwait, a small nation like Kuwait, whose each dinar is worth $3.26, why would they enter into a currency swap with the Iraqi dinar in a program rate unless, once again, they are of the belief that the dinar will reinstitute, and based on Basel IV compliance, that the dinar will most likely be the strongest currency against the U.S. dollar in the world. Now, all of this begs the question, well, then why operate with an undisclosed rate? Why not just change the rate? Well, there are some reasons for that. One is they're in the process of collecting the 3-0 notes internationally. They want that done. And incidentally, there's been a lot of talk about the fact that when we go to the bank to do our exchange, a $10,000 note would only be a 10,000 dinar note would only be a 10 dinar note. A 25,000 dinar note would only be a 25 dinar note. In other words, the 3 zeros would not be recognized. Well, if that's the case, why collect any of the 3 zeros internationally? If they're just going to refuse to honor the 3-0 note, why collect them? So, yes, I guess it's possible that they could pull the rug out from under us, and this is a speculative investment, but I don't think that's going to happen, again, for the reasons that I've stated. Another reason that they would operate, at least initially, with the undisclosed rate, because they're not going to announce when they're, a date and a rate, because that would create wild speculations in the market. It would be very unstable for them to do it that way. And the last issue is they need to collect those 3-0 notes because there's some bad players out there that they do not want to fund. So for all of these reasons, it makes sense that they're doing this the way that they're doing it. Now, there's been a lot of talk, and the term that they use is Iraq is now entering the second phase of monetary reform. I don't know that there are hard and fast guardrails for what constitutes phase 1 and phase 2, but if I had to sort of separate them out, phase 1 to me would be, again, the collection of the 3-0 notes internationally. Second, passage of their 3-year budget. And third, the last thing I'd like to refer to this, the point of no return, is the end of the use of the USD in country for the exchange of goods and services in country in Iraq. Phase 2 of the monetary reform, and this is being basically outlined, and the reason I think they call it phase 2 is because Iraq's initiated a national education operation, and they're releasing training videos to the citizens of Iraq. And what's happening in phase 2? Well, they're initiating the banking reforms, executing completion of the electronic or digital platform. We're witnessing the official rate and the market rate beginning to close, which would indicate that the Iraqi dinar has been stabilized and there will be a real effective exchange rate. They're starting to license investment banks, which means they are building their private sector finally. And what's going to happen one day, not in the too distant future, in my opinion, is 3 things are going to happen. They're going to stop the auctions, they're going to release the lower denoms, and the IQD is going to float on the Forex. I'd like to believe that it's going to happen within a matter of days or weeks, but Iraq always seems to be late to the party, so I'll say that I will be shocked if it doesn't happen in the next couple of months, but I would not be surprised if it were to happen in the next couple of weeks. And the massive national project, inclusive of training videos, obviously pointing to the fact that something of a dramatic nature is going to be happening very soon in order for them to go to these lengths to educate the citizens about this final phase of monetary reform. There's nothing really much more I have to offer to this week, largely because as time passes, they're just running out of things that they need to do. Obstacles have been removed. The individuals that have been trying for a number of reasons to stop this have failed, in my opinion, and I expect us to be in the banks this summer. I do want to touch on the trust package that Trusts Unlimited has established. It's a trust package we've utilized in the past for our more affluent clients, but we decided to market it to Dinarians because wealthy individuals routinely utilize a package like this. But for individuals who have dinar or who have some asset that they expect a substantial increase in value, there are advantages to establishing the package prior to actually acquiring this wealth. And I want to touch on those. First, I want to touch a little bit on some of the other entities individuals can establish to provide some level of asset protection. For example, individuals can establish LLCs and sub-S corporations. Problem here, however, is they're statutory, meaning they're regulated state by state. So everything is disclosed, which is, of course, not the case with a trust. A trust can provide asset protection and privacy that LLCs and sub-S corporations simply cannot provide. When you establish, for example, our Family Asset Protection Trust package, it's not registered in any municipality, in any county, in any state, or federal government for that matter. Doesn't operate with your Social Security number, which these other entities do. It operates with its own separate EIN number. Everything within the package is sealed, meaning the general public will have no knowledge of your net worth or your actual holdings. Second, this package allows you to avoid IRS scrutiny. Again, it operates with a separate EIN number. If you're holding these currencies in direct title, when they revalue, the IRS is probably going to audit your return. And given the magnitude of this revaluation relative to your prior year's earnings, you're probably looking at a full-blown 6-year audit. However, if you've assigned these currencies to the trust, there's less than a 15% chance of an audit because the IRS tends to go after the low-hanging fruit and they don't want to get involved with a sophisticated trust. In addition, even if the IRS determines to audit your trust, they can't do a 6-year audit because the only transaction within the trust will be the revaluation itself. Third reason you'd want to establish this trust is if you plan on doing gifting to family and friends. Now, philanthropic gifting can always be done on a tax-preferred basis, but in order to avoid a substantial federal gift tax, you're going to need to give currencies to family and friends prior to the revaluation. But this trust package has a special gifting sub-trust, which means not only will you be able to gift currencies to family and friends and avoid the federal gift tax, you will actually have complete control of the post-RV proceeds. In situations where you don't want that control, you can simply gift the currencies outside of the trust. But in situations where you feel it's necessary to control that post-RV proceed for these individuals, you can do so by gifting again through this trust. This sub-trust will allow you to manage, invest, and distribute the post-RV proceeds to these individuals as you deem appropriate given their situation. Fourth reason you ought to consider establishing this trust package is because it's been structured in such a way as to allow you to avoid the cost and delay of probate and the federal estate tax. This trust will, of course, allow you to avoid probate, meaning that no one will know what's in your trust. No one will know who your heirs are. No one will know how much each of your heirs stands to inherit. And because you've avoided probate, there can be no challenge to the trust. In addition, the trust will allow you to avoid the federal estate tax. The federal estate tax can be as much as 65% of your estate in excess of $12 million. So by establishing this trust, there will be no probate. There will be no public disclosure of your estate. There will be no public disclosure of who your heirs are and how much they each stand to inherit. And your heirs will immediately inherit 100 cents on a dollar of their inheritance with no federal estate tax. The fifth benefit is the asset protection only available through this trust package. Pre-RV, this trust will allow you to avoid something called the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act. Very simply, it means this. you purchase 10 million dinar and assign them to the trust. The purchase price was $10,000, establishing the value of the currencies at the time you transferred them to the trust of $10,000. Let's say conservatively, those currencies revalue for $1, giving you $10 million. Can you be sued for $10 million? No. You can only be sued for $10,000. Why? Because that's all the currencies were worth when you transferred them out of title to the trust. Post-RV, this trust protects you from future bad acts. This protection is accomplished through a strategy called segregation of assets. What that means is as you purchase items like homes, cars, boats, etc., you place each of them in their own separate sub-trust to be managed by the master trust, the initial trust that you established pre-RV, which will hold your currencies, financial assets, and manage these sub-trusts. Now, how does this protect you from future bad acts? If any asset you own is involved in civil litigation, that's the only asset that would ever be involved, because the other assets are held by other sub-trusts, which under the law are separate entities or persons having nothing whatsoever to do with the litigation involved. So the package of trusts work very much the way a commercial barge would work, where all of the valuable cargo is stored in a series of small compartments. Why? In the event that any compartment is ever breached, the only potential loss would be the cargo in that one compartment. The cargo in the other compartments is safe and secure due to the firewalls, and the barge will never sink. Now, these benefits are not available to you and lost to you if you do not establish your trust prior to the revaluation of these currencies. And fortunately for those of us that have dinar and have trusts, I think the time to establish your trust is dwindling quickly. Now, our trust package is initially a package of 10 trusts consisting of one master trust that will again hold your assigned currencies pre-RV and financial assets like bank accounts, investment accounts, and other financial assets. There is one optional gift sub-trust which you can establish if you wish to give currencies to family and friends and control the post-RV proceeds, and then 8 additional standard sub-trusts to hold physical assets like homes, cars, boats, etc. This was the simplification of a rather sophisticated trust package we've utilized in the past for our more affluent clients, package that had an initial cost of anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000. But when we decided to market this trust to dinarians, we knew that that would be unaffordable for many. So by mass marketing the trust package, we've been able to reduce the cost to $3,000. There are several ways you can pay for that. Pay us up front. We'll discount the price further to $2,500, saving you an additional $500. That's not possible. We do have a deferred payment arrangement. You'd make an initial payment of $525, which sum would basically offset our out-of-pocket costs just to produce and deliver your trust package to you. The balance of the $3,000 would then be paid in $100 monthly installments. We will charge no interest. The only proviso is once the Iraqi dinar revalues globally, any unpaid balance would need to be paid within 30 days. With this approach, anyone that has currencies and understands the need for getting their trust enforced and their affairs in order pre-RV should be able to afford to do so. One other suggestion, we do accept credit cards. Pay us up front with a credit card. Not only will you get the $500 discount, but the minimum payment on your card would actually be substantially less than the $100 a month you'd pay under our deferred payment arrangement. But we will work with you in whatever method works best for you. Our objective is to help you get your affairs in order and your trust in place for all of the reasons we've discussed. Now, there are rational reasons for anyone to establish a trust, but you have to remember that unfortunately we are being governed at present by a group of kleptocrats that, in my personal opinion, not only do not believe in our constitutional representative republic, but are doing everything they can to undermine it. And, of course, classic tactic of the left is to blame someone else for what they are actually doing themselves. The mantra we've heard for the last 3.5 years is we must save our democracy. Well, of course, we're not a democracy. We're a constitutional representative republic utilizing the system of federalism, which decentralizes the government, which is exactly what they hate. What they want to create is a single-party social democracy. And the proof is obvious. Right now, they're knee-deep in every manner of election interference they can possibly think of, because they know that the re-election of Donald Trump will end the creation of what Obama called the fundamental transformation of this country. And how do we know that they're the ones that are trying to destroy the republic? Well, they want to stack the Supreme Court. They want to end the Electoral College. They want to end the Senate filibuster. They want to stack the House of Representatives. Well, how would they do that? Well, the populations in the major cities are dwindling because life in those citizens has been hell for those citizens precisely because of the policies implemented by the Democrats. So what have they done? They've opened the borders and they've let 10 million undocumented individuals into this country. Now they make some noise and complain about the fact that these people are being bused to these cities, making it difficult for local government. But their complaint isn't that the people are there. Their complaint is the federal government doesn't give them money to sprinkle on these individuals because they want them to stay in the cities. Why? Because they want the representation in the House. These individuals also want to amend or repeal the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment. Let's review those again. The First Amendment, right of free speech. Second Amendment, right to keep and bear arms. Fourth Amendment, right to privacy. Fifth Amendment, right to due process. 10th Amendment, states' rights. They also, fortunately, have failed to create their central bank digital currency, which gives them absolute control of us because they control our expenditures. Of course, in my opinion, a central bank digital currency is a grotesque violation of the Fourth Amendment right to privacy. Their argument is, well, under the Constitution, Article 1, Section 10, we could create a people's currency, but with the central bank, they're saying it's not actually your currency. We're lending it to you. So if we're going to lend it to you, the consequence is that you forfeit your Fourth Amendment right to privacy, which is why we cannot allow that. Incidentally, there are states that are prepared to establish state digital currencies to circumvent the federal central bank digital currency, which of course can violate your Fourth Amendment right to privacy. If you establish trusts, what you can do is you can establish trust accounts in those states and operate with their state digital currency. You'll get your debit cards, you'll have your bank accounts, you'll have your liquidity. So not only will you have the asset protection of a family asset protection trust, but you'll be able to circumvent the central bank digital currency. I'm of the opinion that they're going to fail to implement a central bank digital currency, but in the event that they do, you will already have the trust in place to circumvent it. Now, our trust is initially a package of 10 trusts, as I said, and I've explained to you that there's substantial savings that are available to you pre-RV. Now, we will, of course, be making our trust available post-RV, but you will be paying the street rate for the trust post-RV. This arrangement, this reduction in the price, is only available to you pre-RV. So I hope you will contact us and take advantage of that. If you're interested in getting our initial package, there are two ways you can contact us, by email or phone. Now, you're under no obligation by requesting our initial package, although it does contain everything you need if you wish to proceed with the establishment of a trust. But it has a lot of information about us, about the currencies, about trusts. You can review the package, contact us if you have any questions. We'll be happy to assist you. You can request it by email again or phone. Our email address is trusts with an S, unlimited LLC at gmail.com. That's trusts with an S, unlimited LLC at gmail.com. Or you can request the initial package through our phone service, which is 307-274-4122. That's 307-274-4122. I probably shouldn't do this because, again, I have so many people to contact, but let's go ahead and maybe take a few phone calls here. Let me open up the Q&A. And while I'm waiting for any questions, I just want to mention one other thing. You have to remember that under our system of civil procedure, it's when you hold assets in direct title that you can lose control of them or lose them outright. This is why you can circumvent that risk by establishing a trust. If you've lived for any length of time, you've either experienced in your own life or through friends and family things like unexpected divorce, permanent incapacitation, the onset of dementia, premature death and prolonged and complicated probate processes. Then there are, of course, investment losses, business losses, and even bankruptcies. The number 2 loss of wealth in the aggregate, courtesy of the information age, is identity theft. But the number 1 loss of personal wealth remains confiscation through civil litigation. Anything you own in direct title can be taken from you. So if you're an individual who wants to protect their wealth, or an individual who has currencies like the Iraqi dinar that you anticipate a substantial increase in value, you need to get those assets out of direct title and into trust, preferably before the revaluation for all of the reasons that we've discussed here. So let's go to the Q&A here. Our first caller is area code 347. That's 347. Go ahead.
Yes, Praveen from New York. I have a question about the Iranian president's passing. How will that affect Iran and all that in relation to,
A couple of individuals have died mysteriously. I don't think it's going to have an effect. I don't think that's directly linked to the revaluation of currencies. I think there are other geopolitical things afoot there, so I don't think it's going to have a direct effect on what's going on in Iraq, at least not right now.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Sure. Our next caller, hang on one sec here, is area code 509. That's 509. Go ahead.
Jim, this is Art over in the left coast in Washington State, or Spokane.
Yes, sir.
How you doing?
Yes.
It's great to talk. I have a couple of real short questions. First one is, as you may recall, my wife and I had put together a trust, purchased a trust for my sister who has some small amounts of the currency, which needs to be protected. The question I have, those basically, all the currency is in what you'd call our trust that we have with you. It can be switched over at any time. But my question is, with the gift subtrust,
Okay.
Say again?
Go ahead.
Okay. Can we go through the RV process and have the currencies revalued and put into our trust? And then with the gift subtrust, transfer or basically write a check to her trust, so because she lives over on the other side of the state. It's difficult to get, logistics, and she's older than you and I, so.
Well, if you're talking, there's two kind of things there. If you're talking about a trust package that was established for someone else, that needs assistance, obviously you're going to have to do whatever necessary. With regard to the gift subtrust, and this is substantiated, individuals that get our trust package, they get supplemental documents, and one of the supplemental documents is called the exchange protocol if you have a trust, referring to the process at the bank. When you go to the bank, you're going to have a difficult enough time with them, so you're going to take as little as possible. You're going to take your currencies, your ID, and the master trust only. You will negotiate your exchange. The USD will then go into the master trust bank account that will be established that day at that bank. After that money is available to you to do whatever you want with, then you go back to the bank with the gift subtrust document. You establish accounts for the individuals that you are gifting through that subtrust, and you will transfer money from the master trust bank account that was established initially when you negotiated your exchange to the newly established bank accounts in the gift subtrust. The reason you don't take the gift subtrust with you initially, once again, these people at the bank have no clue what you're doing. The leverage you have with them is that you're the one with the dinar. So, we laughingly call it the Jed Clampett effect. Basically, when you go to the bank, say, look, put your rule book away. This is going to be done my way. It's my currency, or I'll just go to the bank across the street. There's a bank here that will do this my way. But by not taking the gift subtrust initially, you're avoiding a lot of confusion. So it's a two-phase process. First the master trust, then you go back and do the gift subtrust. Okay?
Yeah, I got that. My question is, can we, from the gift subtrust, at the time of the RV exchange, have all the currencies placed into our master subtrust, and then, as you were saying, go back, open up a account for the, which would be her master subtrust, and transfer the money into that.
You're mixing. There's no such thing as a master subtrust. If she has her own trust,
right.
If she has her own trust, that's a separate thing from your gift subtrust. Those are two completely separate things. What I've explained to you is how you would eventually fund your gift subtrust. If you have an individual that has their own trust, then you will go to the bank with her, and you will negotiate the exchange of her currency, and it will go into her master trust bank account that will be established for her at that bank at the point of exchange.
I understand that. My question is, because logistics are involved, can the initial process of completing the RV with our currency joined with hers, because in essence it is, and then after that's complete, there's no way you can do it. I see what
if you're suggesting.
She has to be present.
If you're suggesting currencies that you're gifting her will be negotiated and placed in your bank account, trust bank account, and then you'll go, absolutely do not do that. Her money is separate and apart. Her money. If you had said that in the beginning, I've understood your point. You can't you cannot commingle those funds. You've created an absolute nightmare for no reason at all.
Okay. Well, that was my concern, and I thought what I had was correct, and what you said just substantiated that, and I appreciate that immensely. With the logistics involved, it's a matter of us going to her after we complete the process, and then do the same thing with her trust as trustees with hers. Okay, I got you. I was trying to see how I could possibly skip a step.
I understand that. The answer is no. The answer is no.
I can handle that.
All right.
Okay.
You take care.
Thank you, sir. Very kindly. You take care.
You too. Bye-bye. Okay, our next caller is It says anonymous. I probably shouldn't take anonymous calls, but I'll be happy to. Go ahead, anonymous.
Hi, Jim. Thanks for taking my call today.
Sure.
Appreciate you taking the call, but also appreciate just the clear way that you communicate and share your perspective. I wanted to get your take on kind of a recent event. I know that historically, since 2003, Executive Order 13303 was, renewed by every president since Bush put it in place back in May of 2003. It seemed like for a while that this year was going to be the first year where that executive order was not renewed. And then I saw an article a couple days ago that the Biden administration or that Biden renewed it. What's your take on, kind of what that says about the process and how close we are to the end?
Well, I think I don't make any bones about, where I come from politically. I don't like Biden. I don't like their administration. I don't like their cabinet. I don't like what they're doing. So in my opinion, he did the right thing for the wrong reason. Okay, 13303 is protection for Iraq, but it also helps to facilitate the exchange, in my opinion, as well. My problem with the Biden administration is that if this thing were to happen, he would do two things because he's Joe Biden. First of all, he would take a bow as if he had anything whatsoever to do with the money that was coming into the U.S. Treasury because of our position with the Iraqi dinar. The second thing is rather than do what, in my opinion, would be the only moral thing, which is to eradicate our debt, I think he'd go on a spending spree. So, again, yeah, he signed off on it, but he didn't sign off on it for the reasons that the previous president signed off on it. I think he has a completely different agenda. There is the possibility that he has no idea what he signed also. Okay, the guy can't find himself on and off the stage. I don't care what your politics are. I'm not stating things that aren't true. The man's not there. It's just not all there. I don't think he's calling the shots.
I guess the question I have, though, is, it's, as you mentioned, that 1303 was for, certain protections for Iraq, that different nations and companies couldn't sue them or kind of get at any of the protected money that was in Federal Reserve Bank accounts. And so it seemed like when that wasn't going to be renewed, it was almost an indicator that maybe they no longer required those protections because, some big change was about to happen. And so I'm just curious if the kind of...
Well, let me put it to you this way.
It feels kind of late, too, the renewal.
Let me put it to you this way. Whether you have a strong case or a weak case, do you sue someone when they're broke or do you sue someone when they're wealthy?
Good point.
Right. So the point is, at least there's something to go after. And remember, half of the lawsuits, they don't even anticipate winning. It's nuisance stuff. I think the number's 40% of lawsuits are classified as nuisance. Just give me a little something and I'll go away. Otherwise, you're going to spend that much in litigation and you might lose. So it's unfortunate. That's one of the reasons we have a trust. We make nuisance lawsuits are gone. Why? Because they'd have to go to Wyoming. They'd have to post a bond. They'd have to hire a Wyoming attorney. They'd have to go through the litigation gauntlet that Wyoming has specifically established because it's touting themselves as an asset protection state. Well, it's kind of the way this thing works as well.
Okay. I appreciate your perspective, Jim. Thanks for taking my call.
Certainly. Thank you very much. Bye-bye now.
Right.
Okay, our next caller is area code, area code 225. That's 225. Go ahead.
I was wondering, when I get my trust, I was wondering, do I need to put my wife on that trust as well? And if so,
you don't have to. You don't have to, but as a married man, I'd say it's a pretty good idea.
It would be. It would be to my advantage to do so.
Yeah, hold on one second. I'm going to write your phone number down because I believe your trust was sent to you this week.
No. This is the trust was sent to my nephew. I'm on his phone, but I'm in the process of getting one, and I just needed to know whether I needed to put my wife.
Well, you could create a trust where you are the sole settler. I don't know why you would want to exclude your wife if you're a happily married man, but of course that's the issue, isn't it?
Oh, I am a happily married man, and I just want.
Well, you might not be if you create this trust and don't put her on there. You know?
Well,
I mean, what you're saying, when she happy, we happy?
Absolutely.
Yeah. What's the other one? Better to ask for, what is it? I can't remember them now, but I had a bunch of those lines. I'm going to give you a call after this call. We'll discuss what you're trying to accomplish there, and then there are situations where married people establish trusts without putting a spouse. An example would be a late marriage where he has his children and she has her children. They have separate estate arrangements. So there are situations where that occurs. But I'll give you a call and we'll discuss it in a little more detail. And if you want to get our initial package, I'll send it to you. Okay?
Okay.
All right. What is your first name?
James.
Well, I'll remember that. That's my name.
Okay.
All right. I'll be giving you a call shortly after this call, okay?
Very good.
Okay, James. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, James.
Okay. Our next caller is area code 619. That's 619. Go ahead.
Hey, Big Jim. How are you?
All right, Eddie. All right.
Good.
I know I got something to get done for you. I'm doing the best I can over here.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I get it. No, that's not the reason for my call, though. I do have a question. The 13303 got answered earlier, so that was one of my questions. Hey, the second one is this, regarding the dong, whether you believe it's going to go at the same time or not. What is your belief as to why it would go? Why would it revalue?
Well, I don't think it will go before the dinar, and I don't think it will go with the dinar. People are always, how come the dong? They seem to be, the economy's doing fairly well, and they're on a program rate. How does that work? Well, the reason it works is because they're doing virtually all their trading and business with China. So China's got kind of a closed-door policy with the dong. But once the dinar goes and the whole planet is descending to do business with Iraq, I think Vietnam is going to say, you know what, we're going to go through the gauntlets and get revalued globally because we don't want a closed system with China. Now, of course, China's going to resist that, not unlike Iran doing everything it could to postpone Iraq's revaluation. They're still trying. Because it's their little piggy bank, and the same with Vietnam. Vietnam is potentially a very wealthy country as well. So let me put it to you this way: if I had to hazard a guess, I wouldn't be surprised if the dong reinstituted for the end of 2024. But I don't see it happening. Like the dinar went next week. I don't see the dong going the following week or the following month or the following quarter. But I think maybe by the end of the year, the dong, might reinstitute and revalue.
Okay. All right. I just want to get your thoughts on it. Thank you.
I got a ton of dong. I want it like everybody,
Sure. It won't be any problem if we exchange our dinar, then to go out and buy even more dong. That wouldn't be considered double dipping or anything. Any issues with that?
They conceivably that could happen. I don't see how, though. I really don't see how. As a matter of fact, one thing I guess you could do is, you could say, I purchased, Jim George purchased his dinar, and now the George Family Asset Management Trust with a different EIN number is going to purchase the dong. So maybe I could slide by with that. I don't know that that's going to happen, but you never know. You never know. We're kind of in uncharted waters with this whole thing, frankly, especially with I did it last week. I talked about how the perfect storm with the Iraqi dinar. The country invades Kuwait. It goes into a sanctioned program rate. We pick it up for next to nothing. Iraq completely internally turns things around internally. It turns out per square mile, it's arguably the richest country in the world. So we pick up the currency when it's in a sanctioned program rate. And now, because of Basel compliance, the thing's the most valuable currency against the U.S. dollar. And that's never going to happen again. It's just not.
Yeah. All right, Jim. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I'll give you a call later today, okay?
Super. Thanks.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye. Well, that was our last call for this afternoon. Again, I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call. Certainly the things we discussed are of interest. I'd advise you to contact us either by phone or email to get our initial no-obligation package. It has a lot of valuable information there for you. It does contain everything you need if you wish to proceed with the establishment of a family asset protection trust, but again, you're under no obligation to do so. Our next call is scheduled for next Wednesday. Certainly, if something of a dramatic nature were to happen between now and then, we'll try to get out an emergency email and schedule an emergency conference call. But failing that, we'll be back next Wednesday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Thanks for listening, everyone, and have a great week. Bye-bye now.